I know better than anyone what poverty means. I had to sleep on the street, split up food for a few days to survive. Those were terrible, terrible times, but I don't try to forget them because it's the only thing that's fueling me now. Now you will find out about everything. My name is Helga, and my fate was initially sad. My father left us a long time ago, went to start another family, and I was born just at the same time. My mother was depressed for a long time, and there was no money even for food. She couldn't work, and then she got involved with a bad man. His name was Eric. He's a bit of a character. Besides the fact that he was a drunk, he got my mother hooked on alcohol, and he was also engaged in illegal things. He sold stolen goods, and that's why he had problems with the law. But the most important thing is that he hated me. I remember once when he got drunk and he started scolding me. Mom tried to defend me, but he hit her. Mom was crying, and then he told her to choose either him or me. After 5 minutes, she started to collect my things. I was barely 8 years old at the time. I can't put it into words how much it hurt. I couldn't believe that she so easily traded me for a drunken criminal. But that's what happened. She packed me a small backpack, and because it was winter, I asked her not to kick me out, but she wouldn't listen. She shoved some money into my purse, opened the door, and didn't even give me a hug. I left in the dead of night, not knowing where to go. After a couple of hours, my feet and hands were very cold. I found a place like an abandoned bunker. There was light, and it was sort of warm. I went there and fell asleep on the floor with my things spread out. The next day, I woke up so hungry, climbed out, and went to look for a shop. I was afraid, but even then I decided that I would fight for my life. I would live to get the better of my evil stepfather. I bought food and soap and then went back to my bunker. From that moment on, it became my home. Then I began to wander through the trash, found some things, like discarded blankets, and made a little cozy nook, then went begging. I was lucky that people were kind to me. They helped me with food, money, asked where my mother was, but I pretended to be mute. And when I saw the cops, I ran as fast as I could. I'd heard that people like me were taken to an orphanage, and living there meant dying, so I tried to avoid it. During the day, I begged for alms. I was terribly cold and almost gave up from the feeling of powerlessness. One day in the late afternoon, I decided to go back to the bunker, but it was already occupied. When I went in there, I immediately heard a noise. It was a whole group of drunken men. At the sight of me, they started pestering me with questions. I could barely get out of there. I ran in tears and with a furious heart. Each day was harder than the one before. After a little thought, I decided to go home. I had come a long way, and when I got home, the tears started to choke me again. I knocked on the door, and my mother came out. She started crying when she saw me, but she wouldn't let me in. "Who the hell have you brought to us?" My stepfather's vile voice was heard through the door. The sound made me stagger and take a step back. Mom yelled back that it was no one, and then she kissed me and closed the door. At that moment, I knew for sure that there was no place for me in this house or in her heart. I left there, only now I wasn't crying. I was full of anger and contempt. The next 6 years went exactly the same. I slept where I had to, but I always tried not to lose myself. I begged, worked part-time in public baths, washing clothes in laundries, because I didn't want to look like all the other homeless people. Because I had a goal, I followed it. I planned to unlearn. I needed knowledge. After 6 years, I returned home to my mother again, only without greetings and unnecessary questions. And my stepfather was there. He had become even more disgusting. I just took my documents. When she asked me what I'd lost, I just pushed him and kept walking. He tried to take my documents, but I kicked him in the knee and ran away. I didn't even deign to look at my mother. I was disgusted by both of them. Well then, having saved up money, I went to school. I was accepted somehow, even though there was no guardian. I disputed this point, said that it was just a little complicated. The director wasn't happy, but I was lucky that her deputy was a lady I'd worked for in the past 3 years as a cleaner. I washed her floors twice a week, during which time she learned everything about me. And it was she who vouched for me at the school where she worked, and it was she who gave me the idea to get an education. The lady was a smart woman. She had no children, and maybe that's why she treated me so well. She gave me things, shoes, and left a good tip. Since I was the oldest first grader, the kids laughed at me, but I remembered my goal, so I didn't care. I received a secondary education, during which time I managed to complete 6 courses in financial literacy. I wanted to be an accountant. I spent all the money I earned on my courses. Once, the deputy asked me where I was living at the moment. I hesitated because I was ashamed to say that I lived on the street. I had lied to her all these years, but at that moment, I decided to tell her the truth. She was horrified and invited me to stay with her. She gave me a room and I continued to do the cleaning in exchange. Plus, she fed me and helped me with homework. Finally, my life was getting better. After I got my high school diploma, I went to college and I got a scholarship. The deputy was so proud of me. Her name was Grace, by the way. I thanked her every day for her help and trust, but she said it was worth it. "Fulfill your dreams, and that will be enough for me," she said. During college, I continued to take additional courses, then took an internship at a company. I managed to achieve good results in just 6 months. The management did not fail to notice this. I was envied, called stupid, said that I could do everything through bed, but I did not pay attention to them. Within a year, I was running an entire department, organizing and leading meetings, and I was disliked, loved, feared, and respected, and I was successful. I got rich. In total, 20 years have passed since the day my mother kicked me out. Every time I got a promotion or signed a successful contract, I took my backpack out before going to bed. It had become so shabby, torn in places, but it was still my favorite pink backpack. I kept it as a reminder of my past and the journey I had to take on the way to my dream. I wasn't shy about my background. On the contrary, I was proud of it. Many media outlets wrote about me and interviewed me about how I achieved such success. After all, now I ran an entire company, and this was the highest achievement for myself. I was appointed as the head not so long ago, and on that day, the journalists just swarmed in. At the press conference, I talked about everything from the day my mother kicked me out. In the evening, my colleagues and I celebrated my promotion. Then I arrived at my penthouse and opened a bottle of wine. I drank it and looked down at the city, holding my backpack in my other hand. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The concierge said that my name was spoken by some crazy person, and he suggested calling the police. But I recognized the woman from the camera, and I told him I'd take care of everything. I went downstairs, and there was my mother sitting on a chair. When she saw me, she ran up to me and started crying and complimenting me. She said that she saw me on TV and that she was so proud of me. She also said that she had been looking for me all these years, but she couldn't find me. I asked her directly how much money she needed, but she smiled and said it wasn't about the money. "Did you leave him?" I asked. She hesitantly said yes, and then Eric came in. The nasty, nasty guy. "Well, did he take the money from her?" He asked my mother. "Take more, you're her mother, and she will earn much more than she has now," he said, without even acknowledging me. Then he saw me, and he froze. He immediately smiled, his rotten, black teeth showing from his mouth, and I felt sick. I opened up my wallet, pulled out $5,000, gave it to my mother, and told her never to come to me again. They were so happy, they wanted to hug me, but I stopped them. "If you come back again, I'll call the police. Today is the first and last time I'm helping you. Think of it as charity." I told my mother. She started crying, and I'm not sure she really needs me. After all, she kicked me out more than once, and she didn't care if I was starving or not. So I decided to forget about them as a terrible dream, and never wanted to see them again. Do you think that's too cruel of me? Did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Do not forget to like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.